Tape my eyes open to force reality. Why can't you just let me eat my weight in glee? Hush.
Welcome, World Ablaze listeners. I'm back in action. I took a little bit of time off, and I very much apologize to everybody who listens to the show, supports the show. Sorry. Look, I want to make it very clear to everybody. I love the fact that you all listen to me and support me, but I also need you to know this isn't my full-time job. My other business took my attention. It was a very busy period. And again, I apologize for not getting this episode out. I know it's been a few weeks, but I will have to say in my defense, those last few weeks I was off, there really wasn't much going on. And here I am, ready to go. I am recording this Saturday, June 7th. It is 4:45 p.m. here on the West Coast of the United States of America. And I have to tell you that I'm glad I waited, because this past week has, man, it made up for it. And there's a lot to talk about, and I will not be able to get to all of it, but I'm going to try to hit some bullet points here. All right. Also, I want everybody to know that I have been retooling and working with my brother on the other show that I co-host with him, Random Thoughts with Manuel and George. Now, we have taken that show and we have focused on video episodes primarily. We are on YouTube, we are on Rumble, and we are now on Pod Nation. So Pod Nation has their own Roku app, and we're part of that community. And so if you have a Roku player, you could download the Pod Nation TV app, and you'll see a picture of a big alien on there. When you search for it, you'll see a pop-up. Download that. You'll be able to see those Random Thoughts with Manuel and George episodes on the Pod Nation TV app on Roku. And you'll also be able to see other podcasters that are a part of that community and that network. So go ahead and give Pod Nation some support. If you have a big TV with Roku, you can go ahead and use the Pod Nation app to watch those episodes. And as far as World Ablaze is concerned, I am not going anywhere, and I want to go ahead and give people an update. Listen, I promised you video. It's coming. I'm not going to do my solo episodes or my solo hosted episodes on video because I just don't know if it works. I feel more comfortable doing the solo episodes in audio. Now, that being said, I promise that I will have more guests, and I do. They are booked. They're coming up here. Actually, this month, I will start recording those episodes. Those episodes, the guest episodes, I plan on having those moving forward. Those will be released in video. I feel that the interaction between two people definitely has to be seen. It allows for better context as you're able to see people's facial expressions and their reactions. And those will absolutely be on Rumble, YouTube, and they will be on Pod Nation. I'll go ahead and upload those on the Pod Nation TV app as well. And I have to say that I have to give everyone who has supported the show. There's countries that have stepped up and have been listening to me, and their percentages of downloads have gone up. So thank you very much to the UK. As always, thank you, Iceland, for supporting. And Australia has, they've been increasing their numbers. So Australia, thank you very much for listening to this show. And of course, we have New Zealand, who's always been a strong supporter. And America is, the bulk of where everything comes from in the USA. But I really have to tip my hat to those nations out there who continue to support, and not just support, but seem to be growing in size as far as the audience. So thank you very much to all of you out there. Special shout out to the Duchess of New Jersey. Duchess, thank you very much for all your comments, your interactions, not just on the show here, not just World Ablaze, but I have seen your comments and interactions on Random Thoughts with Manuel and George too. So thank you very much, Duchess. And thanks to everybody who has been leaving comments on Spotify. Now, I'm going to say this right now. I don't ask for much. If you like the show and you support the show, support me by spreading the word. Let everybody else know about World Ablaze with George Fonts. And by all means, leave a 5-star review on whatever damn podcast app you like to use. And outside of that, if you have time, sure, leave a comment or review. And I do respond to those. Now, with that out of the way, and I'm sure you're all thinking, George, it's been long enough to get to the damn episode. I'm getting there. And I'm just going to pull the Band-Aid off. Let's talk about Trump versus Elon. What in the hell is going on here? Listen, this on the surface, a lot of people are reading this on the surface. And I've always said a lot of people live on the surface of information. Now, these guys are airing their grievances out in public, in the public view. Elon's mad at Trump. Trump's mad at Elon. Why is Elon mad at Trump? Well, it sounds like Elon was really upset because of all the work he put into Doge, everything he did to uncover fraud and waste, all the recommendations he made. And when it comes to this big, beautiful bill, Elon is vehemently against it because there's not enough cuts. A lot of the work that Elon did isn't even included. A lot of the Doge cuts aren't even a part of it. And on the surface, this bill looks good. Hey, look, no tax on tips, more tax cuts, etc. But even those provisions, they expire in 2028. And we all know that every sitting president who gives an executive order or was able to pass things that they want in a bill usually gets repealed when the new president comes in, especially if it's an opposing party. Now, we can hope that after the Trump administration, after Trump's last presidential term here is over, we can only hope that there might be another conservative, or honestly, what I would like to see is a centrist. I want someone down the middle. I don't want another far left, far right type of situation. I want someone down the middle, but I would hope that some of the executive orders and policies that were put into place continue. Absolutely continue. Because there are some good things that Trump has done. There are some questionable things. There are definitely a lot of things that Trump did that upset a lot of people. Of course, we knew that would happen. But let's get back to this disagreement between Elon and Trump, which really comes down to this big, beautiful bill. Now, again, this looks nice and tasty. It looks delicious. You want to sink your teeth into it. The damn thing is wrapped in crispy bacon. But the problem is that damn bacon is wrapped around a big chunk of fat, a big stick of lard. And that's the issue that Elon has. There's a lot in there that actually may add to the debt. The other thing that is ridiculous is the debt ceiling is, proposed to be raised even more. So instead of really addressing the budget and taking care of the spending, there's going to be more spending. And not just spending, we're also going to raise the debt ceiling to about $5 trillion because, the best way to budget your spending, right, to rein your spending in is to make it look like you're not even hitting your budget limit anyway, right? Like, hey, my budget is $5,000, I'm spending $10,000. Well, I know how to fix that. I'm going to make the new budget limit $20,000. So now I can spend my $10,000. And you know what happens? They spend the $20,000. In fact, they'll go ahead and spend the $50,000 and they'll be like, well, you know what? I know this looks bad, but next year our spending limit is now $100,000. And that's the game the government has been playing for many, many years. So Elon is upset at Trump. Elon feels used. Elon feels unappreciated. And this whole thing is being played out in real time on social media, primarily X and Truth Social. Now, let's get a little more insight into the bill. I have Congressman Chip Roy here of Texas. Here's a little bit about what he thinks of this bill.
Now, the big, beautiful bill, let's go through it. The bill is what I would call the good, the bad, and the ugly, because that's the truth. And I'm not going to get into personalities and squabbles and back and forth. The president is right that we need to move a bill through here with tax cuts and spending restraint so that he can get the agenda done that he campaigned on. He's 100% right, and we should do that. Elon is right that this bill doesn't cut enough. That's the truth. Two things can be true at the same time. And the barrier to actually achieving the greatness of moving the big, beautiful bill through that would achieve the president's agenda and achieving what Elon is rightly saying, which is that we should cut more, the barrier is right here in this chamber. It's right over there in the Senate. People unwilling to face their constituents and tell them the truth. Well, I'm going to try to sit here on the floor and tell the truth. I had to hold my nose to vote for this bill 2 weeks ago off the House floor to the Senate. Why? It does not cut enough, and it's not even close to cutting enough. My colleagues say, oh, but Chip, it's the biggest spending decrease in history. Let's be very clear. It is a reduction in future increases of about $1.6 trillion. Yes, that is the biggest amount ever. But guess what? We have sizably more debt and sizably more spending than ever. So of course it should be, but it should be more. $1.6 trillion in cuts or future reductions is really about $160 billion a year over 10 years. That's the truth. The truth is, our whole budget has grown from about 3.6 trillion a decade ago to 7.2 trillion now. It's doubled. And everybody wants to applaud themselves for $160 billion of reductions and increases.
Well, that doesn't sound like a very good budget. Doesn't sound like a very good proposal, or proposals that are included in this bill. Seems like increased spending is yet again the aim of the government. And the debt ceiling is to be kicked down the road and raised once again. And, Chippewa's not the only one. Here's Rand Paul. Here's a little clip of what he thinks here.
The House bill is going to add about $4 trillion to the debt ceiling. The Senate bill adds $5 trillion. There's nothing fiscally conservative about expanding the debt ceiling more than we've ever done it.
Right. There is nothing fiscally conservative about expanding or raising the debt ceiling whatsoever. I mean, if we're adding about 4 to 5 trillion, and we're going to move the goalpost of the debt ceiling to about 5 trillion, in fact, may even be 7. How is that fiscally responsible for the United States of America? Now, Trump's going to claim, look, we're bringing in a lot of money regardless. These tariffs are bringing in billions, maybe even trillions of dollars. But is it enough to keep up with the spending? Is it? And now you got a little bit of insight as to why Elon Musk is pissed off. So they've been arguing, and I'm going to go through a couple. This is ridiculous, but I'm going to go through a few tweets that were going back and forth between Donald Trump and Elon Musk. I'm going to do my best to kind of keep these in chronological order. They may not be in exact order, but they're pretty much in order. So Elon said a lot, and Donald Trump responded on Truth Social with a couple of, I don't know what you call them, truths, whatever. And here's what he had to say. Here's the first one. Donald says the easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. I was always surprised that Biden didn't do it. All right, well, there's shot fired, number one. And then Trump goes on in another truth or post saying Elon was wearing thin. I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars and nobody else wanted, that he knew for months I was going to do, and he just went crazy. Well, that may be Donald. President Trump, excuse me. That may be. But Elon has said many times that he doesn't even care about the EV mandate. He doesn't even care about the EV subsidies or the kickbacks or the cuts, whatever. He didn't care about that. See, Elon's a guy that I take for wanting to innovate, push the envelope, really change society through technology. Now, I'm not naive to the fact that he absolutely wants his pat on the back and he wants to be recognized. But Elon's in a position that he really doesn't need the money. I mean, as far as I know, he's still the richest man in the world. As far as I know. And Elon Musk couldn't help himself. So he shot back. Here's one tweet from X that Elon shot back at Trump, because Trump was going off on Elon as well. So Elon responds, one more post and I'm leaking his nudes. And he then later said that he will apologize profusely as soon as there is a full dump of the Epstein files. So Elon is now trying to hold the Trump administration accountable by saying, look, you don't like the Doge cuts? Whatever. Give us the Epstein files. Give us something that you promised. And so this keeps going on back and forth with Trump. But here's where things came to a head. Elon dropped this. He said, time to drop the really big bomb. At Donald Trump, well, at Real Donald Trump, which is his handle on X. So at Real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, Donald J. Trump. Wow. So Elon calling out Trump and accusing Trump of being in the Epstein files and saying that is exactly why the files haven't been released yet. Well, that's questionable. Look, yes, Trump's on the flight logs, but even Epstein's lawyer said that Donald Trump wasn't on the Epstein list. Yes, he was on the flight logs. He flew in the plane. And there are pictures. There are legitimate pictures floating around of a young Donald Trump partying, or at least with Epstein. But these pictures are all very public. They're in very public places. They might be at fundraisers, other galas and events. So they're all very public photos with a lot of other people around in public. Now, with all that being said, Trump just finally, he was done. He's like, look, I ain't playing this game no more. So in an interview with NBC, Trump responded and dropped this bombshell. And I'm going to just, quote a little bit from here. The headline, Trump says Elon Musk will face very serious consequences if he funds Democratic candidates. Okay, pretty much right to the point, straight for the jugular. Now, is that legal? Can the president of the United States really tell him he can't do this? No, he shouldn't have said that. But in response, it had an impact because suddenly all those negative tweets and accusatory tweets of Donald J. Trump being on the Epstein list and all the other things that he said about Donald J. Trump are suddenly overnight erased from Elon Musk's Twitter account. Can't find them. And the only way you can find them now is because most people who reposted or made a comment actually took a screenshot and they have the picture of the post. But all this really did happen because I was monitoring this as it was happening in real time. And now here we are with Donald Trump in another interview on a plane being asked about the situation. And it seems like everything's suddenly fine.
And a good way to save money would be to cancel some of Musk's contracts. How seriously are you considering that?
We'll take a look at everything. I look at everything. He's got a lot of money. He gets a lot of subsidy. So we'll take a look at that. Only if it's fair. Only if it's fair for him and for the country. I would certainly think about it, yeah. But it has to be fair.
Mr. President, would you consider reopening investigations into his companies? There are a bunch of investigations.
I didn't know that they had any, but they had them. I would just let them speak for themselves. I had no idea. Excuse me. I have no idea whether or not they had investigations.
And what's your view on Elon Musk as of today? I mean, have you heard from him at all? Is your
Honestly,
team?
I've been so busy working on China, working on Russia, working on Iran, working on so many. I'm not thinking about Elon. I just wish him well.
On the China talks.
On Mr. Musk's contracts, do you feel like the U.S. can survive without them? Obviously, you contribute a lot when it comes to defense and space, and that relationship has been important for quite some time.
The U.S. can survive without almost anybody.
And
except me.
Did you have any concerns about his drug use when he was working for you?
I don't want to comment on his drug use. I don't know. I don't know what his status is. I read an article in the New York Times. I thought it sounded very unfair to me.
You said earlier today that Mr. Musk had a problem. What did you mean by that? And did you misjudge him by bringing?
I don't want to talk about problems. I think that I think the United States had problems, and if you look at the numbers today, the numbers were unbelievable. The numbers were incredible. The numbers that came up today, the stock market went way up. The country's doing really well. Almost, I think, in a very short period of time, you're going to be saying doing better than it's ever done before. We have hundreds of plants coming in, a lot of jobs are being created. That's what happened this morning. You saw the jobs. And the nice part, they're not government jobs. They're jobs of people coming in and doing other things, including the leisure, hotel and leisures. Good stuff. A lot of good things are happening with our country. We're taking in billions of dollars of tariff money. The money is pouring in. And it hasn't even started yet, really, relatively. We're going to have a very successful country very soon and a very strong bill.
Okay, so far, they're trying to get a reaction from Trump. They're trying to get him to say something very negative about Elon, and it's just not happening. So all of a sudden, Trump is being very civil. Usually he's very loud, very proud, and will publicly shame anybody to his benefit. So he doesn't look like the bad guy, but somehow he chose to be very civil here. And he, shots across the bow. He warned Elon, say, look, don't mess around. Don't go funding Democrats because I'll make it very bad for you. He sent the message. And now Trump is being civil. Elon is quiet. Trump's response so far is that of someone who's confident that there is not going to be an issue moving forward. I'm not really sure what was said between them, but apparently Trump doesn't seem to have an issue. I'm going to keep playing this because we have a few more minutes on this, but they're going to ask him a few more questions about the relationship between he and Elon.
Elon Musk, when he left the White House, a key symbolically to the White House, to the administration at large. I think that's what would you like him to give that back?
No, I don't take things back. No,
What about the Tesla?
I gave him a key. He tried very hard. The Tesla, I haven't thought about it.
On his work then, as of this point, for the administration, how do you think his Doge did at the end of the day with the savings that?
I think it helped us a lot. I think it helped our thinking, and it's not finished at all. We've basically taken it over, and we're doing a job. Many of those people remain with us, and they're going to remain with us. They're very good. It's terrific. We saved, hundreds of billions of dollars. It's terrific, and it's going further. I mean, I'd give you the answer actually at the end of 2 years, because a lot of it is out into the future. But it was a big saving and a good mindset.
And what are you going to do about the Tesla? Are you going to keep it, or are you going to?
I haven't thought about it.
Do you have any plans to contact?
I hope he does well with Tesla.
Do you have any plans to speak with Mr. Musk? This was one of your closest advisors for months.
I don't have any plans. Somebody made a mistake. A lot of reporters have been calling me. I didn't call any reporter. A lot of reporters, they ask me the same question. No, I don't. I'm not even thinking about that.
There apparently were these efforts. This is what I read, to bring you and Elon back together. So those efforts where are they?
No, there are efforts. I mean, I've been asked about it, but I'm not really interested in that. I'm really interested in the country and solving problems, including war problems in very far away lands. A lot of people being killed. When I left, we had no problem. We didn't have wars. We defeated ISIS 100%. Iran was broke. There was no Hamas problem. There was no Hezbollah problem. Israel wouldn't have happened, in other words. Russia-Ukraine wouldn't have happened. We had no inflation. And by the way, we have no inflation now. And if we had a good Fed chairman, you would lower rates. And you know what? If inflation happened in a year from now or 2 years, let them raise rates.
All right. So far, this is a very different Trump than we're normally used to. They're asking him, hey, are you going to talk to Elon again? He was one of your closest advisors. Are you going to try to get back together? What's going on? And Trump just like, hey, I don't even care. No, I haven't even thought about it. He's literally saying that this issue isn't worth his time. He's got bigger fish to fry. He's got a country to worry about. He's not going to get drawn into some social media squabble and compromise the safety, health, and growth of the United States of America. And for the most part, he's not even like puffing himself up. So this is very different. I'm not sure what happened between them with this exchange. I don't know if Trump somehow got humbled because he was challenged by someone who was also very powerful. I mean, he's not the president. Elon Musk definitely cannot hold a candle to the government if Trump wanted to put the screws to Elon. But at the same time, Trump can also recognize that Elon's very powerful, has a lot of connections, and can definitely manipulate the media and other companies and relationships around the world to screw Donald Trump if he wanted to. I mean, Trump's not an idiot. I'm sure he sees that. So I think this is just the two realizing that mutually this can't go on. Now, the other take I have is this whole fucking thing was theater. This whole thing was a big distraction. They don't really hate each other. Why do I say that? Well, while this was going on, a lot of people forgot about the Epstein Files. A lot of people forgot about what was going on with Palantir, however you pronounce that. There's different ways of saying that. Well, what's so important about Palantir? And now, what's going on with that and the reports that were happening in relation to the Trump administration are of note and very important. And while people were digging into that, this squabble between Musk and Trump happened. Very convenient, right? Who's Palantir? Well, here's the deal. I got this from Granite Shares. So graniteshares.com. They'll usually give you background on companies and what they do. I'm going to read the company overview and go into their business segments. So the company overview, what Palantir does. They were founded in 2003 by Peter Thiel. Now, Peter Thiel is a name to recognize and to pay attention to because he's a big AI guy. He is huge on AI and developing AI. Now, he was one of the founders, along with Nathan Gettings, Joe Lonsdale, Stephen Cohen, and Alex Karp. Palantir originally focused on helping intelligence agencies. Okay? You hear that? They focused on helping intelligence agencies, particularly the U.S. government, detect patterns and uncover hidden connections in large data sets. Over time, the company expanded into commercial sectors while maintaining its core strength in government work. So, what's their core offerings? Well, there's two services roughly that are their core offerings. There's Palantir Gotham. So, Palantir Gotham, originally developed for counterterrorism efforts. This platform is widely used by government agencies, especially in defense and intelligence. Gotham allows users to integrate, analyze, and visualize data from disparate sources. It's designed to help agencies detect patterns and derive actionable insights from massive amounts of information. This software is a critical tool for military and intelligence operations. So their other offering, which is Palantir Foundry. This platform targets commercial clients, so providing data integration and analytics tools for enterprise. Foundry is highly adaptable and enables organizations to create digital twins, perform complex simulations, and gain operational insights. It's used across industries like healthcare, automotive, and finance to optimize workflows and support decision-making. So let's go to their business segments, because regardless of what they offer in the commercial segment, most of their revenue, actually the biggest chunk of their revenue and their contracts is with government, specifically government and defense. So let's read what they do there. Government contracts remain Palantir's largest revenue stream. The company has established long-term relationships with defense and intelligence agencies in the U.S. and allied nations. Palantir's Gotham platform is the foundation for much of this work, allowing users to sift through enormous data sets to uncover insights related to national security, counterterrorism, and again, military operations. Palantir also supports various defense applications such as mission planning, logistics optimization, and battlefield management. These solutions are integral to operations across branches of the U.S. Department of Defense, NATO, and other military alliances. So there you have it. And one of the key technologies that Palantir uses is AI. Okay, so here's what's been reported in the news. In pretty much, everybody, it doesn't matter if it's NBC, CBS, CNN, whatever. And I don't even care if they're left. Look, it's everywhere. These are the accusations of the relationship and what's going on. Now, there hasn't been any hard data or proof, but it's floating. It's floating around out there. Somehow this information got out. So here's a quote from an MSNBC article. The push has put a key Palantir product called Foundry into at least 4 federal agencies, including DHS and the Health and Human Services Department. Widely adopting Foundry, which organizes and analyzes data, paves the way for Mr. Trump to easily merge information from different agencies, the government officials said. Creating detailed portraits of Americans based on government data is not just a pipe dream. The Trump administration has already sought access to hundreds of data points on citizens and others through government databases, including their bank account numbers, the amount of their student debt, their medical claims, and any disability status. Mr. Trump could potentially use such information to advance his political agenda by policing immigrants and punishing critics, Democratic lawmakers and critics have said. Okay, so there you have it. Of course, the Democratic lawmakers and critics are going to obviously be against Trump in any capacity, but we still have to think about the ramifications of this type of deal or use of this technology. This can be used for a digital ID system, for example, collecting all this data. This could lead us down the road to how China handles their citizens. It could lead to data that could be used for a social credit score. Now, we don't ever want to think that the United States of America will take away freedoms, and we may go down that road, but let's not forget what happened during COVID. The censorship, the deplatforming, people losing jobs, all those things happen. All the things we said that wouldn't happen did happen. So this does raise concern. And another concern that we need to be aware of is that in this big, beautiful bill, getting back to that, by the way, this all ties in, there is a provision in which state and local governments cannot regulate AI for, I believe it was a period of 10 years. Very interesting. So you have one of the biggest proponents of AI being one of the founders of Palantir, which their technology is all mostly based on the abilities of integrating the advanced capabilities and algorithms that AI can offer. And now this doesn't look so, coincidental. Now it looks like it's something out of a conspiracy novel. Plausible, right? And then we could also talk about that with the squabble that was happening between Elon Musk and Trump. We also kind of forgot about what's going on with the Epstein list, right? So we're getting close. Pam Bondi was saying, hey, we got thousands of hours of tape and evidence that we're going through and that we're going to release. And then you have Bongino, Dan Bongino, who was a prominent podcaster and a huge proponent of moving the Republican Party forward and may have actually contributed to helping Donald J. Trump get elected. Now, with that being said, he's now the deputy director of the FBI. And suddenly, after constantly saying that Epstein didn't kill himself, that there's more behind this, that this is a conspiracy, that somebody got to him. Now he's in the FBI. All that is just thrown out the window. Nothing happened. He killed himself. There's no conspiracy. No one got to Epstein. Very, very strange. Makes you wonder if Dan himself wasn't a media plant to take advantage of new media, and he himself spread, dare I say it, conservative or Republican propaganda. Now, we know that he's been, a podcaster or a radio show host for many, many years. And his sudden rise, though, is what was kind of strange. Now, he's going to say, well, it's because Rush Limbaugh gave me a shout out and recommended my show. And since then, it blew up. All right. Fair enough, Dan. But you got to also admit that your rise was kind of like a switch that was flipped. And then overnight, you were a success. And then you suddenly didn't care about the money or the show. You wanted to be back in the government, serving in law enforcement, in the FBI. Sorry, Dan, but it is a head scratcher. And then you have Kash Patel, same thing. All the times he said, no, there's something going on here. This doesn't smell right. We need to get to the bottom of it. And now that he is the director of the FBI, suddenly tapes don't exist. Nothing's going on. Hey, I don't know what to tell you. We're going to give you everything we have, but there's nothing there. Okay, so was the Elon Donald J. Trump squabble or fight a distraction? Kind of seems that way. But you know what? We're going to move past that. Now let's focus on what's going on with the Epstein list. The list that was promised on day one of Donald J. Trump's presidency, which 100 days in or so, we've got fuck all. We got nothing aside from people sidestepping, bird walking their answers, not really giving direct answers, trying to change the subject. But I'm going to play something here. Now, I don't really do this often. Look, I'm going to play something from Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's newest episode, or latest as of, this episode I'm recording anyway, he had Kash Patel on. I got to give Joe credit. I don't listen to Joe Rogan every day. I really don't. I know there's some hardcore fans out there, but when Joe has a certain guest, I'm going to listen. And I got to give credit to Joe because he actually pressed Kash Patel. He pressed him on this Epstein list situation. And Kash did a good job of not really giving a direct answer. And at some point, he even changed the subject on Joe. And Joe realized what was going on. Now, I didn't hear the entire episode. I got about 75% in. But what got my attention was Kash's response at about 41 minutes in or so when Joe started pressing him about the Epstein list. What's interesting is Kash really seems to be, I'd hate to say it, lying. He's either lying or he really is this clueless. And I can't say that Kash is clueless. He's a pretty smart guy. I'm going to play some of this. Now, I'm going to play it. I may interject here and there, but you got to hear this interaction. Here we go.
I've said it. Dan Bongino said it. We've reviewed all the information, and the American public is going to get as much as we can release. He killed himself. Do you think, let's play out the logical conclusion of this. Do you think that myself, Bongino, and others would participate in hiding information about Epstein's grotesque activities? Or do you think we would also participate in not prosecuting people we had evidence to prosecute people on? But the problem is there's been like 15 years of people coming in and creating fictions about this that doesn't exist. Where's the videotape of an Epstein Island of X, Y, and Z committing these frauds? Why haven't you given it to us? Do you really think I wouldn't give that to you?
All right, that's very interesting. In this statement, he's trying to make an appeal here. that, look, a guy like me in my position, what I do, I stand for justice, truth, light, the American way. I would never hold this information back. Of course, I'd want to prosecute someone who did these heinous acts. But in the same statement, he said that there were 15 years of people spreading lies about this, which weren't lies, were they? I mean, let me put this into perspective, Kash. Epstein has been on the radar for years. They obviously were looking into Epstein, especially if they have 15 years of evidence and investigative reports on Epstein. So your statement doesn't make any sense in that if there was the information, don't you think I would give it to you? Not really, Kash, not really believing you here, because if there's 15 years of data, investigative reports, and evidence, and there was nothing there, then nobody would be talking about Epstein for those entire 15 years and even after he has died. Something doesn't smell right here, Kash. All right, I'm going to continue to play this because this is where Joe leans into Kash.
If it existed, I'm working my ass off along with the leadership at the Bureau and DOJ to get you what we're allowed to give you. And you're going to get the video of the cell and you're going to see for yourself. And we will never be able to convince everyone.
Okay, let's get into that. So what did you think before you got into office? Did you think that Epstein was murdered?
No.
No suspicion at all of it?
But I have a different background, right?
Right.
So I was a public defender back in the day. I used to spend a lot of time in jails and a lot of time in segregated housing units, shoes as we call them, right?
All right, I'm going to stop it. In the video, Kash says no and looks away. Kind of looks down, looks away. He's full of shit. He himself had suspected that there was foul play here, but suddenly he doesn't believe there is. Suddenly. Same thing with Dan Bongino. Suddenly. No issues, nothing going on. Right.
And so, and I've known people that have committed suicide in these cells. And I know how you get in, how you get out, who works the system. And so the way, based on public information at the time, that he ended up, the pictures and him hanging himself, I was like, man, that guy killed himself. There's just no way that you could have run an op and had people go into that cell and not have any video of it and not have any people come out and say, hey, yeah, I saw that guy. He shouldn't have been there, the guard or this guy. There's just no access points into places like this in the detention center he was in, which I've been in.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but what I was told, what I'd read, was that the guards were not paying attention or were sleeping.
Well,
right?
And in short order, you'll see it.
Is that correct?
Well, it's hard to surmise that from a video, right? Like,
oh, okay. You can tell Kash is already feeling the pressure here. A direct question, because Joe's correct. It was reported that the guards were asleep, not paying attention. And later on, you're going to hear where Joe brings up the fact that, well, it was also reported that the cameras were somehow not working. So the argument that Kash gives about there's no way this can happen. There's no entry points. It would have been caught on video. But I do remember, Joe remembers, most of America remembers, that we're told the cameras weren't functioning or operating at the time. So how would you get it on video anyway? And the messaging that he is saying that, look, there's no way this would have happened in a prison like this. Right. So murders that are influenced by bribes being offered to prison guards who are corrupt and want to make extra cash because they put up with a lot of bullshit already. And maybe they're not corrupt. Hey, look, you wave 10, 20 grand in front of someone's face to look away. They may consider it. We're human, right? Prison guards are human. They're working their ass off, not making enough. I can see that happening. So Kash is really doing a good job thus far, but you could also hear, and if you watch the video, if you look at Joe Rogan's episode with Kash Patel, his latest anyway, you can see Kash is a bit uncomfortable. And I got to say that Kash is a pretty good actor so far. All right, I'm going to continue this a little more.
Right. Where they and look, do guards doze off on the night shift? Yeah. But no one can get in to the cell. And if they had gotten in to the cell, you would see it.
But we were told that the cameras were down.
Well, I don't know who said that.
But that was in the news.
We're giving you all the footage we have.
Funny, right? That nervous laugh. I don't know who said that. Yeah, you know, he tends to do that a lot. That's Cash's tell. I've watched other interviews where he was asked about the Epstein list and the Epstein files and the suicide itself, and where he also shrugged it off with a laugh. That's one of his tells. So just so everybody knows, pay attention to his responses. And every time he throws that little laugh and he kind of shirks, because he knows he's full of shit and he's being backed into a corner.
So why wasn't that released like immediately? Why did this speculation escalate?
I think you'd have to ask whoever the Attorney General back then was, Bill Barr.
Did you ever see, do you remember that HBO autopsy show? Dr. Michael Baden, he's a famous forensic
I don't think I've seen
scientist. So he's a pathologist, and he reviewed the case, and it was his determination that it was a homicide because of the way his neck was broken. And what he said was it was indicative of a ligature strangulation, and it was because of the positioning on the neck where the marks were, that it wasn't indicative of someone hanging by their weight, which had been higher on the chin. And there's a specific break of the bones and the vertebrae that's consistent with someone who is just strangled to death.
I haven't seen it. I'll definitely take a look at it because that's part of my job.
You haven't seen that?
The report on that? No, I haven't looked at that.
Did you see any, was there any other autopsy done other than the official one?
Not to my knowledge, but if there was, you'll get it. And that's what we're doing.
See if you can find that Dr. Michael Baden thing.
Yeah. No,
Do you remember that show, the HBO show?
No.
It's a pretty cool show.
Yeah,
So this guy, Dr. Michael Baden, he had a long career of catching murderers, exhuming bodies, finding trace amounts of poisons, different kinds of things. And it was a crazy show, like all these wild ways.
Well, I love watching shows, and I spend a lot of time on planes. So.
Yeah, it was an old show. It was a show like from the early 2000s, I believe. But this guy was like, this very well-respected forensic scientist who would analyze these bodies, and it was his determination that he was murdered.
Yeah. And my job, going back to the core of what I've been doing since I studied Russiagate, was to get, and is to get everybody the information.
When did you get here? Epstein's autopsy points to homicide. Pathologist hired by brother claims. New York City medical examiner strongly disputed the claim that the evidence from the autopsy suggested strangulation. So let's go to by the way, this is the New York Times, and they never lie. The private pathologist, Dr. Michael Baden, said in the morning TV show Fox and Friends, Mr. Epstein experienced a number of injuries, among them a broken bone in his neck, that are extremely unusual in suicidal hangings and could occur much more commonly in homicidal strangulation. I think the evidence points to homicide rather than suicide, said Dr. Baden, who observed the autopsy done by city officials. Dr. Baden, a former New York City medical examiner and a Fox News contributor, said, I have not seen in 50 years where that occurred in suicidal hanging case. Findings by Dr. Baden were strongly disputed by the city's chief medical examiner, Dr. Barbara Sampson, who previously ruled that Mr. Epstein's death on August 10th in the Metropolitan Correctional Center was a suicide. I stand firmly behind our determination of the cause and manner of death in this case, Dr. Sampson said in the interview on Wednesday. She added, in general, fractures of the hyoid bone and cartilage can be seen in suicides and homicides. The hyoid bone is near the Adam's apple. Dr. Sampson also dismissed Dr. Baden's contention that the circumstances around Mr. Epstein's death suggested other people may have been involved. She said her office had done a complete investigation, taking into consideration information gathered by law enforcement in making the determination.
So this is a perfect example of going back to my public defender and prosecutor days. This is what we call a war of experts. You can
Okay. All right. So now Cash is trying to flip the script here because he knows he's backed into a corner. He knows that there's more to the story. And now this is a war of experts, right? And he's going to go on to say, hey, when I was a lawyer, I would do this when I defended people. Like sometimes I defend some pretty bad guys. And, you want to find an expert who's on your side, who's going to say what's going to work for your defense. Sure, except for the fact that this forensic scientist, this forensic pathologist, went out of their way to examine this, to look at this case without getting paid, no incentive, to give his 2 cents on this matter and say, look, this is not conducive. This does not line up with a suicide. This isn't very common. Like this doesn't make any sense. Look, Kash is full of shit. Bongino is full of shit. There is something that is either scaring them or their allegiance to Trump. And I'm not even saying or accusing Trump of being involved in this whole Epstein fiasco, but someone close to Trump maybe. And someone is absolutely being protected or may have nothing to do with Trump. It could have to do with another agency, someone involved with another agency that can easily wipe out Kash's family and get to Bongino and his family. We don't know. This is hypothetical. But this also is very interesting because Kash was also recently swatted. How peculiar. And if you don't know what swatting is, this is where somebody, some anonymous person will call in some crazy thing going on at a house. Like, oh, there's a gunfight, there's something going on, and the police will respond with a SWAT team. And this go to your house with guns out, ready to go, and someone swatted Kash. Someone got to Kash. I'm sorry, none of this smells right. None of this lines up. A lot of what Kash and Bongino say are very contradictory to what Pam Bondi has been saying to the press. None of this makes sense. None of it. Look, America, I mean, hell, the world needs accountability when it comes to this Epstein case. We need accountability. We need closure. We need people to be prosecuted. We need them to go to jail. And I've said this before. I do not care if certain people that we don't want to be involved are involved. I say if they are involved in pedophilia, they're going around having sex with underage girls and boys, and they're a part of this whole Epstein party, this whole Epstein fiasco, let them burn. Let the government burn if the government's behind it. I don't care. It's time for us to reset and move forward and really live as a very, very proper moral society. We got to stop reinforcing and coddling and patting people on the back for being minor attracted, for just brushing these things under the rug, or even being scared of being held hostage by some power. Look, I hate to say it, but yeah, we're all going to die at some point. Are you going to die on your feet defending justice, truth, the American way, and freedom? Or are you just going to be a coward, take the money, and run? You're not doing anything for the American people if you're going to be that guy. If you're going to be that guy, you're not doing anything for the American people. And I know it's a tough spot. Look, if they threaten your family, that's one thing. If they threaten you, that's another. I get it. But someone has to step up. Someone has to put their foot down and not be afraid to prosecute every single fucking person that was involved with this whole Epstein fiasco. Period. All right. I'm going to get off my soapbox. Look, we had the discussion. I hope that people are brought to justice, and I wish Kash would stay vigilant and somehow pull his head out of his ass and really go after this Epstein case the way he said he was going to before he became the director of the FBI. Now, in other news, geopolitics across the globe, Russia is escalating their attacks against Ukraine. Now, this just happened, so this is why I brought this up. Today, as of this recording, June 7th, 2025, Russia launched one of the largest attacks yet against Ukraine. So this is what's been reported. Apparently, Russia launched one of the largest air attacks against the Ukraine. There were 407 suicide drones, 38 cruise missiles, and 6 ballistic missiles that hit the Ukrainian cities. So far, it's been reported that 3 people died. I've seen other reports that 7 to 10 people died. There were, 20 to 30 injuries. Here's a report from the AP that came out just, a few hours ago. Russian attacks on eastern Ukrainian city of Kharkiv killed 4, wound more than 2 dozen. Kyiv, Ukraine, Russian attacks targeted the eastern Ukrainian city of Kharkiv, killed at least 4 people and wounded more than 24 others on Saturday. Now, again, there's other reports that are coming out that are saying that there was more than 4 people killed, but I'm just going to read what I got here from the AP. The first wave of Ukrainian second largest city was a large Russian drone and missile attack in the early hours. It killed at least 3 people and wounded 21 others, according to local officials. In the afternoon, Russia dropped aerial bombs on the city center, killing at least 1 person and wounding 5 more. I'm sorry, I probably mispronounced that, but Kharkiv's mayor said the warring sides also accuse each other of trying to sabotage a planned prisoner exchange nearly a week after Kyiv embarrassed the Kremlin with a surprising drone attack on military airfields deep inside Russia. Now, again, this is a piece that we have to pay attention to because Ukraine retaliated against Russia. They launched a deep attack days ago, by the way, against Russia. They took out one of their power grids or one of their major towers that help supply power. They bombed and took out a supply train. So the Ukrainians launched an attack. Now, people are saying, why would the Ukrainians do this? What are they thinking? They wouldn't do this if they didn't have the backing or approval from the U.S. or someone else. There's also others that said, there's no way that the Ukraine would do this and jeopardize a relationship with the U.S. One of those people was PBD, I believe. Patrick Beck David, sorry, man, you got some bad takes. Listen, Ukraine's going to do what they want to do. They're protecting their country and their sovereignty. Yes, there was a minerals deal in place. Yes, the U.S. is involved financially, and yes, that they are now going to be, or they, I don't know why I'm saying they, we, because I am in the USA, are going to be tied to the hip with Ukraine. But nothing has happened yet in terms of putting people there to start mining and processing those minerals. Okay. Now, we have to do something. This whole thing is getting out of hand. Russia is now taking the gloves off. They have never launched an attack this big. This is them flexing, saying, look, you want to fuck around, you're going to find out. Russia can wipe Ukraine off the face of the earth. Literally. They can do this. We all know it. I am labeling this Russia-Ukraine situation as kind of, I may be off on this, you may not agree, but it feels like the cold World War III. Why do I say that? Because every nation has an interest of either self-protection or an interest in what's going on due to their relationships with Ukraine and the surrounding territories and countries around Ukraine and Russia. You see, we can't dismiss the fact also that while we don't want to believe this is not a cold World War III, which may very well become a very hot World War III, that while our allies, or Ukrainian allies, in big air quotes, by the way, the UK has done nothing yet. France has done nothing yet. Poland has done nothing yet. Poland's at the ready, though. You can't fuck around with Poland. I mean, they're ready to go. But everything's been posturing. Everything's been words. Everything's been donations, money, supplies, whatever. But none of them has stepped up. Now, the Ukraine, Keir Starmer, claimed we're going to step up our readiness, our military readiness, and we're ready to go. Sure. You guys keep talking, but nothing's happening. This war has been going on for quite some time. It's not going to be long before Russia's knocking on your door, just for the sake of retaliation. You guys talk big and do nothing. That being said, I'm also going to hold President Trump accountable. I know he was not wanting to get into an actual war. Nobody wants to go to a real hot contested World War III. But the reality is someone's going to have to put their foot down, period. In this war, China is involved, but nobody's talking about it. There has been Chinese troops caught, seen, killed in this war, siding with Russia. There have been North Korean troops caught, killed, seen in this war, supporting Russia. Iran has sent drones and technologies to Russia in support of this war. So we got this alliance between Russia, Iran, China, and North Korea, who are all very actively engaged in this conflict. Yet those who claim that they stand up for freedom and justice and are looking out for Ukraine have done nothing. Nothing. Why? Because they don't really want to be held to task. They don't really want to kill their own citizens, their own military personnel. I mean, understandable. Nobody wants to go to war. But when is somebody going to actually step up, reach into their fucking trousers, pull their gigantic balls out, and slap them on fucking Putin's face. Putin's going to keep doing this. He's not going to stop. He doesn't care about peace. He's not going to do anything to appease the Western alliance. He gives no fucks. Russia wants Ukraine. He's made it very clear. And after that, he's going for Poland. He's going for all the old USSR territories because that's what he said he wanted to achieve. And Putin's getting older, man. He's getting older. And this is his legacy. This is just him testing the waters. At any given moment, Russia can decimate the Ukraine. And I know I hear all these analysts saying, well, Russia doesn't have the infrastructure. They don't have the logistics. They don't have the... You know what? Fuck all that. You know what Russia has? A huge artillery. They could just rain hellfire from the sky on Ukraine all day and take them out. And Ukraine has no real aerial defense outside of whatever we may donate to them. Period. Full stop. We got to stop fooling ourselves into thinking how strong Ukraine is. Ukraine is sneaky. Ukraine is smart. They've launched some attacks that Russia wasn't prepared for. They got caught off guard. Hell, Russia was attacked deep into their own territory. I got to tip my hat to Ukraine for doing that. Great. Good for you. But you poked the bear, and now Russia said, fuck it. Here you go. You know what the rest of the world is doing? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. This needs to end. Trump needs to do something. Period. This has got to stop. The United States of America, who stands up for freedom, democracy, justice, needs to step up because the rest of the world isn't going to do dick. They're going to do fuck all until America steps up. And that's always been the way it is. That has always been the way it is. Europe is not going to save you, Ukraine. Stop pandering to them. UK gives no fucks about you. France ain't going to do shit. Macron's too busy trying to look like a man was being slapped by his wife. Nothing's going to happen. The U.S. needs to get involved. Trump, Mr. President, let's figure this out. Let's get something done. This has to end. All right. Enough of that angry rant. Listen, everybody, thanks so much for listening to me. And by the way, please like, subscribe, share the show, give me a 5-star rating, leave a comment and a review, and always have a great day.
I wanna taste your content, hold your breath and feel the tension. Devils hide behind redemption. Honesty is a one-way gate to hell.